You old motherfucker. You got to wear reading glasses to do that?
Shut up, man. Shut up.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John and Pete.
We got to have it going on, baby.
That's right.
All right, well,
Here
John?
we are,
Yeah.
man. We're
Yeah.
here in sitting around Darrell's. Now, our frequent listeners, our subscribers will recognize our frequent guest engineer as Darrell Carbolito, also my cousin. And we are in Darrell's kitchen.
I know that's right.
Eating hot wings, man.
Chopping it up.
Eating hot wings with Rusty Cox and Dave Agent.
What up?
Yeah.
You know
What's
what
happening?
I'm saying?
All right.
Man.
Yeah, man. Hey, I tell you, this is a treat because, I've been just dreaming of this to happen in my house because, man, you've been doing it at your house a little too much.
Well, that is home base.
That is.
So we
That
do it
is.
at the house. We've also done this podcast very frequently from Dwayne's house,
Oh, right on.
Dwayne Wiggins.
Yep.
And that's where Darrell's been our guest engineer. So,
I haven't seen D in a minute, man. I miss seeing Dwayne and Ray and all those cats,
Yeah.
man. I'm sorry, but
quality dude, man.
oh,
Yeah.
man.
Was it a Mindseed Sound?
Mindseed Soundstage is the name
That's
of this
right.
place now. And it's a complex with a nice big rehearsal room.
Yes.
He's got a console up there, man. He's got this Digidesign console. It's the second one that they built. It was $1 million when it came out. It's several years old now, but it's still state of the art.
Still $1 million to me.
It was $1 million when it came down. Naturally, you know how Dwayne is, boy. He's not going to pay $1 million for it. He's going to wait around a little bit and let somebody take that depreciation hit. But he got the second board out of the Digidesign factory, and it's the one with the touch screen and all kind. Man, this thing is dope.
It's nice.
The second board is the one at Mindseed. The first one belongs to George Lucas. So that board is it's pretty serious.
Yeah, it's no joke.
Yeah. Anyway, but Dwayne, of course, he's also pretty serious, but he's also really loose too. He's a great proponent of our show, and we love him. And so
Awesome.
we'll tell him you say hello, man.
Man, please do. Miss that cat and all those cats dearly, man. And I could go on and on. One of my fondest memories of those guys was I just happened to stop, park my car in front of the house, and walk in, and they just happened to be dropping a track called "Thinking About Ya."
Wow.
Tony.
Yeah.
And
That's one of my favorite Tony songs. Man, I love that song. It's so smooth.
It's
Oh yeah, it has kind of that Al Green vibe to it.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
beautiful track. I walk in, the SP 1200 is chugging along, Ray's in there with the Ransom bass guitar,
Yep.
putting it down. There's Dwayne, Jubu, and Spanky.
Jubu and that opening lick. The song opens with that Jubu lick.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if Dwayne remembers this, but there I was sitting there as they did. I believe it was probably about the second and the third take. I can't remember exactly where it was, but they dropped 2 takes in front of me.
Yeah.
And they kept the first one.
Okay.
The first one's the one you know.
All right.
That's what I heard. I sat there frozen. I was scared to move a muscle because I felt like something was going to get out of sync if I even moved.
Wow.
And it was just an eargasm to watch. It was just phenomenal, unbelievable playing. It was like it's like being in Nashville and watching 2 of the greatest players or 3 of the greatest players go back and forth at each other,
right,
with no vocals.
Yeah.
They were just having a conversation in these chord changes.
Yes.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is a beautiful song because of that interplay. And you're right, it is a conversation.
Yes,
man,
sir.
you just dissected that song, right? Man, I've been listening to that song since, when did that come out, man? Probably like 96?
Yeah, that was 1996.
And I've been listening to that song ever since.
Yeah, it either came out in 96 or 97.
What was the name of that album?
Oh boy, whoops.
I know I have that album.
Yeah, I can
I'm
see the
getting
cover.
brain,
It's kind
I'm
of
getting the brain
green.
freeze on it myself.
It's got that green.
I feel guilty.
Yeah, that's all right. We're gonna cut this part out.
Okay.
all the unflattering parts, they just find their way on the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
So you walked in on that session.
I just happened to show up. You know, I used to pop by.
Did you?
On the
Man,
regular,
you got to get on this
I
mic.
used to pop by on a regular occasion, and
Were you living? You were living in Alameda at the time.
it's right there in Sacramento.
Oh, in Sacramento. That was recorded here.
Moon Studio.
No, sir.
Wow.
This was at Raphael's house.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it was Pookie Studios or Pookie Entertainment is what he has going on. I believe he still has that going on to this day. So that was the beginning of Pookie Entertainment and Pookie Studios right there in Sacramento in his basement.
You know, that's cool.
Oh man, it was
To just pop in on stuff like that, man. There's, and then when those things that you hear and you identify as amazing, you know, hearing that interplay like you talked about in this musical conversation that was happening between these players, and just going, man, and being affected by it, walking away. Well, here we are, 19, 20 years later.
Jeez, 19.
And that conversation has stood the test of time. So your ear did not betray you.
What I'm come to realize and come to know and should have known all along was that those tunes and the way that the Tonys go about their business, it's real music. It's based on the original formula of what we know as rock and roll, rhythm and blues.
Yeah.
It's based on the original formula, and it's not a big variation away from that.
Okay.
But yet, imagine taking something and nurturing it for 20 years.
Yeah.
Or 40 years or 60 years. The same exact formula.
Yeah.
It's going to get
And
better.
just letting it simmer. It's
and
just
better.
cooking down and cooking down and cooking down and getting thicker.
Yeah, it's almost like a gumbo.
Yep.
Simmering at its finest, you know.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all that beautiful starch coming out of the okra.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know
and
what I mean?
everything is kind of blending together
Yeah,
to get
stuff
that
is living with itself, you know.
get that, fullness to it, and
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice and
It's
thick.
an amazing thing to watch and have witnessed, and to, it's something I'll never forget. It was a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
Beautiful moment.
Now, we had a couple guys recently that I've been asking Darrell about you for a while, Dave, getting you on the show. And Rusty, I'm glad we managed to catch you while you were here in town, because I know you're heading out on Monday.
Yeah, it was actually perfect timing, so it worked out. It worked out good.
Hey, and by the way, John.
Serendipitous. I like to use the word serendipitous when it comes to timing like this.
Hey, we got to throw a shout out to Rusty's daughter, Desiree, who's graduating tomorrow, man.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, tomorrow morning.
Well, congratulations,
Congrats.
Desiree.
That's right.
Thank you. It seems like yesterday I was just rocking her, and I didn't know I would expect 18 years to go this fast.
My son Nico's graduating tomorrow as well.
Oh, yeah.
Congrats
So,
to Nico also.
I'm
man.
having
Congrats.
the exact same. In fact, anybody's listening to the show, the guy who introduces the show is my son Nico. And he is, he's 18, and I'm going through the same set of feelings, man, where it's like, where did it go?
Just where did the time just fly? Making me feel old.
Well, you'll feel better real soon. Trust me, you'll feel a lot better.
Well, I can only imagine how old Dave feels.
Man.
I mean, his daughter's was a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. So,
Not only was she a Cowboys cheerleader, she was the eldest cheerleader.
In the bunch.
whoa.
And that's
guess
funny.
what?
That's funny because I was watching on the NFL Network the training camp of the Dallas Cowboys. Well, they did that with the cheerleaders,
Uh-huh.
and I looked on there, and I saw Dave's daughter on there.
And for those of you who
I
don't
was
know,
like, I know who that is.
Let's give some background.
it's Sasha Agent.
Oh,
All right.
Yeah, Sasha.
What's up, Sasha? All right.
Look at that. So all our kids are getting shouts out. Listen,
I know, we're old men.
let's give some background because there's a reason I've been chasing Dave Agent, man, to get on
Yeah.
this show. Number one, because he is he's a podcast listener. He's a podcast impresario, and so I value his feedback on our podcast, and I know he's going to deliver a good episode for us. But he's had an amazing career as a bass player.
Yeah.
We just had Rich Uggan on the show.
Richie!
Yeah.
Huffadoot.
Oh, man. That's our homeboy.
Richie
And-
Rich, killer drummer.
Man, yeah. He's, and I said, man, we got to rewind and let's go way, way, way back. And I know you guys did the Too Legit tour, which was the tour where that was the largest tour in the history of mankind. You guys must have gone to 186 countries, is what I heard.
Yep.
And we're out for 13 months. That tour was greater than a year long.
I saw a
And you're
piece of
scrolling through your
information
phone at
the
this
other day,
time. Yeah.
and it was one of the top grossing tours of the year.
Yeah.
I believe the top grossing tour was Genesis,
Oh,
followed by the Grateful Dead,
okay.
Metallica,
Uh-huh.
Hammer,
Wow.
right behind Metallica.
Wow.
For top
Crazy.
grossing.
That
So
is
it was huge.
crazy.
It was a big tour.
It was a big deal.
Speaking of, what's up, Felton, and what's up, James?
Yeah, we had Felton on the show very recently. And the thing that surprised me was I know that you and Rich had played on that tour together. But I said, let's go way, way back to your developmental years. And he's from the beginning, man, Dave Agent.
What?
And I said, really? And he said, yeah, man. I've been with Dave for a long, long time. He just talked about how you were there. You guys just developed a lot of things together. He said he developed his sense of pocket based on just trying to lay in the cut with you. And that's one hell of a compliment, I think.
That
for
is.
anybody to pay anybody else who's shared a musical stage.
Yeah.
Well, he couldn't be more kind. I thank him for a kind compliment. That's amazing. That dude right there was literally my left, right foot, and hand. And my left hand, my right hand, left foot, right foot, and everything in between. He was the man. When I met him, I'll never forget. I watch him play today.
Yeah.
And he plays the same with the same intensity, the same skill set. It's amazing.
And the same sense of ease.
Yeah.
He just, that is every fiber of his being communicates that way.
When I
He
first
was
watched
16.
him, that guy.
He was 16.
Man.
That's
And Rusty, you're from the Bay Area originally?
No, I'm from Portland, Oregon, born and
Oregon.
raised.
There we go.
And I moved to Sacramento in 1997.
Okay.
And I was down here 3.5 years. So I was kind of green when I got down here.
Yeah.
And I was trying to find, places to play, new musicians to meet. So my kid's mom, we went out one night, and she said, oh, this guy's playing, and it happened to be Ron Moton.
Okay.
And they were playing it on Broadway. And so we went out that night.
On Broadway in San Francisco.
Sacramento.
No, here in Sacramento,
Okay.
the old on Broadway, down on Broadway Avenue. And so I saw Ron in there, and that's actually how I met Dave.
Okay.
Because Dave was playing bass with Ron.
Uh-huh.
And so I met them, and so me and Dave got to conversating. And the next thing you know, Dave said, well, we're playing out at such and such if you want to come out. And that's and it was with Reggie Graham. And that's how I met Dave, and then I got I went out to see Reggie Graham, and that first night he called me up to sit in. Who was playing drums with him? Oh, it was Claude Mack. Ooh. If you remember Claude Mack from Jack Mack and the Heart Attacks.
Yes, sir. Oh, what a monster drummer. What a monster drummer.
And so they allowed me to sit in. Next thing you know, about a week later, Reggie calls me up. He's like, you want a gig? I was like, wow, boy, that was quick.
Yeah, I'm in town.
And then, the rest is history. And then me and Dave we just locked drums and bass like like no other.
And let me bring in a theory I have that I like to drop on people, and from time to time, it's just been an observation of mine over my career. And it is that I've met people, players from Ohio, the Pacific Northwest, Texas, and maybe Philadelphia. If you tell me you're from one of those four places,
Yeah.
and you play music,
Uh-huh.
I say, let's go. No questions asked.
Okay.
That
It doesn't matter where in Texas?
I don't care.
Really?
I don't care. If you tell me you're from Texas,
Yeah.
let's go.
Right.
Tell me you're from the Pacific Northwest,
Yeah.
that was him.
What
I
do you
said, let's
think
go.
is the common thread?
I've never met anybody from any of those places that could not play, ever.
Right, and I told Dave.
Wow,
Dave
that's
asked me
huge.
where was I from. I said, "Oh, I'm from up in Portland, Oregon." David was like,
I said,
"Oh."
Oh, we can go right now.
Yeah.
Dave was like, "Enough said."
Really?
Yeah, seriously. Seriously.
Damn.
In the story, it's like, okay, let's
John,
go.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know, but I'm thinking we had to be from Guam.
I know. No, you know what? You that's funny.
Now, I do have a.
That's messed up, Dave.
I have a serious.
That's messed up.
I have a serious. I have a serious affinity for Jesse Manabusa.
Oh man.
What's
yeah.
up, Jesse?
That cat
that's
right
a lovable,
there, dude.
lovable dude.
Damn.
I've never seen anybody like him.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody like him.
Well, you know, he is a remarkable presence.
Yeah.
He's a wonderfully gifted singer, songwriter, player. But I think the main thing about Jesse is that his sincerity in every note that he plays and every word that he sings is so captivating.
Yeah.
You can't help but not listen to the dude. He will draw you in, and he will convey his message in such a way that you can't not listen to him.
Always has.
Yeah.
Met Richie and him
Yep.
same day.
Yeah.
You know how that happened?
Please tell us.
There was a car accident,
You've got to stop.
and I was called.
Uh-huh.
The bass player got into a car accident. Gabriel Darrell.
Wow.
And they called me. It was about 1 in the afternoon. They had a gig at 4:30.
And they called you at 1 in the afternoon.
I didn't even know these guys.
Welcome.
I didn't even know these guys.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
I didn't even know them.
And
I had met Ruben twice.
Okay.
That was it. I got called. I had to get from East Oakland to a rehearsal spot, grab my amp, to Berkeley, grab my clothes, to Ruben's house, meet with them, load up, and get to a ferry in San Francisco before 4:30.
Wow.
And then figure out what to play for
Wow.
4 hours.
Yeah.
It wasn't a ferry. It was
It was one of those cruise ships.
It was-
Darrell and I have done that before.
it was
Played on
dances.
that bay cruise.
Yeah, I was
Yes, we
I think I was 18. Rich was probably 16.
Yeah.
Wow.
And what an amazing night.
Yeah.
We had to play 4 hours of music.
And you did.
Certainly did.
All right.
Gotta
What kind
know.
of stuff did you play? Reach back and see if you can grab some of those tunes from back then.
I need Rich's help.
Tavares.
At the time,
Actually, that was the Tramps.
That was the Tramps.
Excuse me, yes, the Tramps.
Disco
Tramps.
Inferno,
Man.
That's right.
Tavares.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that song. And you know what? I can even hear now in this community of musicians, and Darrell speaks very, very highly of both of you. But immediately, as soon as you launch into that, man, I can hear your voice on the bass and Rich's interpretation on the drums, because that's that beat is locked in. That and the way that he locks that up, man, and I can imagine you just looking over there and then jumping on that train and being in a spot where you can just go, all right, man, we could do this all night.
It was a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
it was.
Literally.
And actually, when I first met Rich, we were playing at Meadowview Park because I was also touring with Roger Smith of Tower of Power.
Okay.
I was touring with Roger, and I was playing with him at the time.
Yeah.
And I met Rich that day. We opened up for the Whispers
Uh-huh.
at Meadowview Park.
Meadowview Jazz Festival.
Yeah, at the Meadowview Festival up there.
Wow.
And we were just giving compliments on each other. I'm like, no, you're the baddest. Rich was like, no, man, get out of here. You're the baddest. So we were kind of going back and forth.
Man, that is cool.
Giving everybody compliments back
Didn't
and
we
forth.
go
But
to? No.
Why did I not go to that one?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering because we went to one there.
We went to the other one.
The other one.
They played Meadowview
Couple.
a total of, I believe, 3 times in
So
probably about 6 years.
We went to the one where it was with Lakeside. No.
Yes.
Yeah,
you're right.
it was
and I
Lakeside
believe
after.
Lenny Williams
That
was at
wasn't
one of them,
at
too.
Meadowview Park. That was at Consumers River. It was the same festival.
Oh,
they moved it
they
to
moved it.
the college.
Okay, right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Rusty,
I love to hear you guys chop this up while I eat some
Early-
chicken, because I can podcast and eat chicken at the same time.
you were leading into how you met Dave, and I want you to talk about. Tell us how it came about. You got the gig with Dazz Band.
Okay, well, this was in Portland back in '89, and I was playing with a band. The leader of the band was Nathaniel Phillips from Pleasure, and the name of the band was Cooler.
We're going to get back to Pleasure, but please continue.
And anyway, I was sitting in because, I was due to go to Japan with this group called Cooler with Nathaniel, but their drummer decided to stay, and I sat in that night, and Marlon McClain happened to be in at the gig. So he heard me, and he's like, man, I like the way you really play. And he was like, okay, the Dazz Band has an opening if you're interested. I'm like, really? If I'm interested?
Who's not interested in the Dazz
I'm like,
Band?
come on now.
Yeah, we're talking '89. they had to have been at the peak of their.
Oh yeah, they were kind of still gigging. They weren't in their early prime like they were, but they were still, they were still working and going overseas a lot.
Yeah.
And he asked me, did I want that gig? I'm like, of course. And so he's like, here's what you have to do. We're going to take you over to Japan with us. We're going to audition you over there. If you make the gig, you're staying. If you do good, you're staying. But if it's not all that, your ticket will be waiting for you to come back home.
Well, at least you had a ticket coming back home. They
Yeah,
could have
so he
said, well, we're
said
going to audition you out there, and if it doesn't work, you better play your ass off, because if it
Oh, yeah.
doesn't work,
How
you
well
have to
can
find
you
your way
swim?
back.
How well can you swim?
Well, I was so stoked up for it. He gave me the tape. I sat in that room in Japan, and I just studied, and I studied, and I studied. So by the time it was time to rehearse, we went
This
through the
was
song.
1989. I know you got on that plane with a Sony Walkman.
Oh yeah. And then once I got through that, the leader of the band, which was Bobby Harris, he told Marlon. He looked at Marlon. Marlon looked over at me and winked, and I know I was in. Bobby said, "You're in, dude."
Nice.
How long did you play with the Dazz Band, Rusty?
I played from 1989 up until '93.
Okay.
Wow.
Man, that's a stretch.
Yeah, it was nice. I
Did you
played.
guys spend a good amount of that time on the road?
Well, not really. It was kind of like an off and on thing.
Yeah.
But I did the Strand Theater at Redondo Beach.
Okay.
In L.A. And we did the Hollywood Palace over there in Hollywood.
Yeah.
We opened up for War.
Across the street from Capitol Records.
Yeah, over by Capitol.
Yeah, that's a nice bill right there, man. The Dazz Band and War. There's a
and
night
then,
for you.
Then we did San Bernardino, and we opened up for Roger Troutman and Zapp,
Man.
Barkays, and War was on that card.
Wow.
That was
That's
almost a Dayton gig right
Yeah,
there.
no kidding.
Yeah, that was a
There's
big
a whole lot of
festival up
Midwest
there.
going on right there.
Yeah,
Being I'm from
a lot of funk in there that day.
Yeah,
I
I
just
bet.
say that.
Ohio
Bet.
funk.
Yeah.
At that.
being I'm from
People's necks got a cramp that day.
Oh yeah, they were getting definitely whiplash.
being I'm from Long Beach, California. War is one of our homegrown
Man.
bands.
Compton
They,
Boys.
same high school.
Yeah.
No, Long Beach.
Oh, okay. I thought they were
Little,
from Compton.
I used to. Check this out.
Oh, boy.
I lived here war rehearsed here.
Podcast listeners, Dave is drawing a map on the table with his pinkies.
Right. Behind the plate of chicken.
I rehearsed. I lived here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 blocks this way, 2 blocks that way. War rehearsed.
Okay.
There.
Okay.
I went to elementary school over here.
Okay.
So I had to go this way or that way
Right.
to get to school. One day I walked by that. There was a little shack.
Yeah, let me ask you. Well, yes, I'm going to stop you. Is this the shack from the back of The World is a Ghetto where they're all lined up against the wall? It's like a corrugated tin. It looks like it's just a shack.
I'd have to see it.
Yeah.
I have to see it.
Oh, I know like
It's
the
an
like on the
iconic-
album
iconic
cover.
photo. Yes, on the back.
Yeah, you
They're
got
all lined
clotheslines going across everywhere.
Right.
People
And
in
then that
mirrors,
long
people in the
limousine
window.
in front. Right.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I still have to see it. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
big Excalibur limo in the front.
There's this shack sitting there. And it's probably no bigger than this room here altogether.
Yeah.
I look there's silence. I look inside. I don't see anybody. There's nobody in there. But there's all these Marshall amps in there. All the double stacked,
Lined
all
up.
the way around the whole room.
Wow.
I couldn't imagine being in that room playing
Yeah,
music.
with everything up.
Holy moly. I wasn't even playing yet.
That room just got hot.
I was in the 6th grade or 5th grade or something like that. I had no business down there.
Right.
The only reason I should have been down there is because I was going to a friend's house that I went to elementary school with. So it wouldn't have been junior high school or anything like that. And pretty cool stuff, man. But, yeah, they used to play a free concert at school every year.
Yeah.
And one day I got to talk to B.B. Dickerson. I was like, yo, man. I said, who's your favorite bass player? He's like, Larry Graham, man. He's the bass god, man. Yeah, it was cool, man. But, yeah, I grew up hanging with these cats that ended up being a group called Kiddo. And one of the guys ended up rolling out with Parliament Funkadelic.
Oh, that's not a bad gig.
And, George Clinton, Parlette, and all that stuff, and ended up being one of their main songwriters and one of their main vocalists and one of their main bass players.
Wow.
A guy named Donnie Sterling, man. What's up, Donnie? If anybody knows him out there, tell him I said, hey. Yeah, they're just amazing cats, man. That's where I get my...
I love War. I love War.
Oh, War...
Oh, they put on a great show live.
I put on a track while me and Rusty were at the house. I played Babyface. Do 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 boom. Do 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 Babyface. No 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 no. Hey. Dope track.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of their tracks were reggae tracks.
Yep.
They just flipped the beat over to another.
Yeah, they had that kind of vibe.
Another groove.
I also love how deeply ingrained in lowrider culture War is, and they didn't have a single Mexican in the band.
They do now.
Yeah, they do now. But back then, I got married. I got married in 1995. Darrell was in my wedding, and at the time, I was working at Mix. And I remember I had answered the phone at some point, and this guy was on the phone. And what would happen was people would call us if they had like a reference book that they received from us, and often we would develop relationships with these guys who were either like the engineer at a recording school, or they were an engineer at a studio, and often they would have, I just came fresh from working with Darrell for a number of years, and we had a Fostex B16 in the studio.
That's right.
And somebody called up and said, hey, man, I'm trying to clean this B16, man. I don't quite know how to take it apart to clean it. And I was like, oh, Darrell taught me how to do that. So I got on the phone with the dude, and I was like, look, man, here's how you do. You need a long swab. You got to reach in there. You got to do that. We just walked, chopped it up. And then he said, man, if I have any problem with this thing, can I call you back? I said, yeah, man, my name is John. Call me back, man, anytime. We'll hook it up. So he did, man. And over the course of a couple weeks, he'd call me back several times. And one day he said, so I imagine you play an instrument, huh? And I said, yeah, of course I do. Everybody here plays an instrument. He said, that's what I suspected. What instrument do you play? I said, I'm a drummer. He said, I'm a drummer too. And I looked up at my computer screen, and I saw his name was Harold Brown.
Harold Brown.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
Killer drummer.
there's a zillion Harold Browns. It didn't really register.
Sure.
And he was calling me from New Orleans.
Okay.
So I didn't think it was that Harold Brown.
Right.
It just, I didn't put two and two together. And he said, I play the drums too. And I said, oh, that's great, Harold. And he said, okay. Listen, I've been playing in this band for a number of years. I said, what's the name of the band? He said, War. I looked up at my computer screen again and I said, you are Harold Brown. You know what he said? How long have we been on the phone?
Yeah.
Say after all this time, huh?
John, I have to clarify. When you said you worked at Mix, let's clarify. That's Mix Magazine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
So
See?
check this out.
Oh.
This story gets better. I got to tell you this story, Dave, and I've never told this story on the podcast. But so I tell him because I realized now my dad was, was a sax player, and when I was growing up, I always used to put on his headphones, and I would put on records, and I'd be able to lose myself in my dad's records. And one of the records there were two records that really, really grabbed hold of me when I was a very young child. And they were two of my dad's favorite records. One was Tower of Power, Bump City, and the other was The World is a Ghetto by War.
Oh, yeah.
And the two things those albums have in common, if you think back, the album covers were animated. They were cartoon album covers, both of them. So I was a kid. I grabbed those records just because they had a cartoon on the front. There was Blood, Sweat, and Tears in there. There was all kinds of stuff. But I saw a cartoon, so I grabbed it and I put the record on. And that became my musical basis. So, Dave Garibaldi, kind of a little more complex for a 5-year-old kid, but Harold Brown's laying in the pocket. So really, my understanding of music was based on the playing of this man that I was talking with on the telephone. And I conveyed that. I said, you know what, Harold? I understand music because of you. And he just laughed. So, anyway.
And it's funny.
That's an amazing story.
It's funny that you mentioned Tower of Power because I was a youngster listening to them because my first experience listening to them was Knock Yourself Out.
Oh, yeah.
The very first
Get on
album.
up and knock yourself out.
Yeah, their very first album, East Bay Grease.
Yeah.
And I was just listening to Garibaldi. I couldn't have been no more than 9 years old at the time. And I'm like, listen to this guy.
Yeah.
It just changed my whole attitude about drumming. I'm like, that was my first time hearing a syncopated drummer play like that.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, man, this is incredible. I mean, I was into guys like Daniel Serafini from Chicago.
Right.
And, but when I heard Garibaldi, that just turned me completely out.
Yeah, knock yourself out, man.
Oh, yeah, and they just had so much energy.
Oh, man.
And Rufus Miller with that growling type of voice.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just crazy.
Well, so if I fast forward a couple months from that phone call, I would hear from Harold every couple of weeks. He would just call, and I would, we'd chop it up for a minute. And one day he said, "How old are you, man?" And I told him, and he said, I got a son your age. I said, yeah, that's great, man. He goes, oh, he's a terrific drummer. And I said, oh, that's great. And he goes, man, you really should meet him. And I said, yeah. And he goes, in fact, I'll tell you what, he just left my house, and he's got a problem at the club that he's playing at that I bet you could help him solve. And I was like, okay. And he goes, you should call him. And I said, oh, okay. It was kind of awkward. And he goes, no, listen, he just left my house. I know he just went to his house, and he's at his house right now. So pick up the phone. As soon as we're done, I want you to pick the phone back up, and I want you to call my son, Darrell. And I said, all right, fine. So I hung up the phone with him. I picked up the phone. I called Darrell. And I said, hey, man, I'm acquainted with your dad. I told him the whole story. And he goes, here's my problem at this club. So I ended up talking to the club owner and just being from Mix Magazine gave a, air of legitimacy. And I talked him through this issue. He had a bad ground. I don't even remember what it was. But essentially all I was doing was telling the club owner it's not Darrell's fault. So he said, okay, man, you really did me a great favor. Now that the club owner knows I didn't blow his speaker out, we're all cool. And I said, great. And I said, well, the reason that I'm calling you is this, man. I'm getting married, and my wife and I have chosen New Orleans for our honeymoon. Mm-hmm. And I asked your dad if he, was going to be around. He always said, if you come to New Orleans, look me up. So I said, hey, guess what, Harold, I'm coming to New Orleans. And he said, oh, I'm going to be out of town. So I was like, oh, okay. Wow. I'm not trying to impose, man. I'm not, But he legitimately was going to be out of town. They were playing in Jackson, Mississippi that weekend that I was arriving. But he said, you should call Darrell. So I call Darrell Brown, and he says, okay, I'll be playing at Club R&B on the corner of Bourbon and Toulouse. You're going to see on the outside of Club R&B a black cowboy. His name is Bubbles. I want you to come up, talk to Bubbles, tell him who you are. He's going to bring you inside.
Wait a second. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Black cowboy named
He
Bubbles.
was, too. It was a black cowboy named Bubbles. Had a big-ass belt buckle. Okay. He wore a cowboy hat, everything. So I go up, and we get to New Orleans, and I'm a little bit, this is all kind of strange. I never met any of these folks. And he says, okay, just go talk to Bubbles. And I was like, well, what do we have to lose? Come on, baby. Let's go talk to Bubbles. So I take my wife over there, and I walk up, and he says, I said, are you Bubbles? And he said, I am Bubbles. Are you John? And I said, oh, yes, I am. And he said, come here. I got something for you, man. I got a spot for you. Darrell's waiting for you. He walks us into the Club R&B, and he walks us right up to the table in the front and sits us right in front of the stage. Naturally, there's Darrell playing the drums for EJ and the Electric Blues Band, and they were hella bad. Mm. And so he sits me right in front. Naturally, Darrell sees that I've arrived at the table that he's reserved for me, so he's waving at me. Comes down after their set, they're taking a break. He comes down, man, hugs me like he's known me for 15 years. Pulls me in the back, of course. I'm coming from California to New Orleans, so I brought him a little something green. And we enjoyed ourselves in the break room. I didn't pay for a drink in the Club R&B. That was the first night we arrived for our honeymoon. We stopped at the Club R&B and spent most of the waking time every night at that club. Had me sit in. We danced, played, enjoyed ourselves. I didn't pay for a drink. Not once. Wow. And we're still friends. Darrell and I are still friends. So then the other thing that happened was that Harold did come back to town while we were still there, and he had us over for a barbecue at his house. I played his drum set. Damn. So, man, I love Harold Brown. I love War. I love Darrell Brown. All good folks.
Yeah, do you remember that?
That was a long-ass story. Thank you for enduring
that War Live album.
That was John Leon Guerrero.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for that.
Very nice.
If you like the show,
and you know you do,
send us some pictures of your movies.
Don't do that. Support the show.
There are 3 ways you can support us.
Number 1, go to iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you listen to podcasts.
And leave a 5-star rating and review.
It helps with the show metrics, and it helps us get better placement. Number 2,
visit our website,
www.breakitdownshow.com.
We've got an Amazon and an eBay link.
Same Amazon, same eBay, you know and love, but they give us a little kickback when you get to their site from ours. And number 3, leave comments about the shows that you like. We want to know what you think, how you feel.
Tell us how to make the show better. We greatly appreciate it.
Now back to the show.
We like boobies.
What I loved about Harold Brown, that War Live album, where he was doing that drum solo on Slipping in the Darkness.
Man, I'm not familiar with that record.
Yeah, they had a live album. Yeah, they put a live album out in 1974. I must have been about in the 7th grade or something like that. It was called War Live. It was a double album, I believe.
Wow. And he played a solo in Slipping into Darkness.
Yeah, they did. Every guys was soloing. It was like Howard Scott did his guitar solo. Then Papa D did his little thing.
Right.
Then right after that, here comes in Harold Brown. I mean, awesome solo.
Yeah.
Wow. That pocket dude laid on Slipping in the Darkness.
Man.
Oh, my God.
That was unlike anything I ever heard before. It was like a hip hop
so
beat back
much
then.
space.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Well, you know, I want to say that, you know, the war stuff. I hope one of these days you get Harold Brown on one of these podcasts. If you
Man,
make it
I got to
out there.
get you on the show, Harold.
But
Brown.
I want to go back to these two, which is what. Oh man, when these two guys play,
How
John,
did we? I know. How did we get away from? We didn't cornered you guys and then talked about other people
But,
for
you
the
know-
last half hour.
Well, you know, it happens.
And how all this podcast came about is because how much I was bragging about the last time you brought Rusty over here,
Okay.
when he's visiting from Oregon, and talking about pocket.
You know what Darrell said?
The
He
shit
said,
you-
"Man, you guys started playing." He said, "I felt like I was standing there and I had a jazz festival all to myself."
Absolutely, man.
He was like,
No
"Man,
lie.
I was just standing there going, I need to call." He wanted to call me up. He said, "You need to come here." He could do
You know,
nothing.
The last time I had that feeling. The last time I was in that situation.
Yeah.
This was back in 1983. I was with my boy Mike Carpenter. This
Boy,
is-
that was a minute ago, huh?
Yeah, and he, Michael Carpenter, Mike C. They know him as Mike C.
Uh-huh.
What's up, Mike? He's out of New Mexico now.
What's up, Mike? Is he in New
And,
Mexico?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. He's between Pasadena and New Mexico still. He's with the
Okay.
James Douglas Show. Little plug there.
Huh.
But hey, man, he took me and he introduced me to Melvin Davis.
All right. man.
Okay, Melvin Davis. I met him. I was like 15, 16 years old. And we walked. We were at Melvin Davis's house. We walked all the way to just around the block into this cat's garage. He had a full drum set, little short little brother. I said, "Damn, you guys are as short as me sometimes." and so just nonchalantly, they just started woodshedding in the garage. And Melvin on bass, and his name was Jeff. I don't remember his last name, but he was the road drummer for Cameo. And him and Melvin worked out in that garage.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, I feel like I'm at a cool jazz festival. And that's the
Man.
feeling that I had the last time Dave and Rusty were here, man.
Man.
I was just like beside myself.
You guys just took him up
Oh, yeah, yeah.
into the booth and lit him on fire.
We had a lot of fun that night. It was real fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we were hoping to do tonight. But I was
know,
like,
but
oh, no.
it happens to be midnight.
Well, it happened to be midnight that time too.
Yeah,
That
as a matter
doesn't
of
really
fact, it
ever
was.
stop, Darrell.
Yeah,
No.
it really doesn't. I'm in a good situation here. As a matter of fact, I warned my neighbor, hey, we might be playing some music late night. She's like, oh, it's all good. She goes, as long as you don't hear me and my boyfriend arguing, it's all good.
I thought they were going to be doing something else.
I thought
We
you were
kind
gonna
of
tell me
jammed
she
the
was-
night away that night.
I was trying to be
so-
nice.
I thought you were going to tell me she was a screamer.
Right.
What's up, Dwayne Sean, in case you listen to this
Yeah.
show?
No, don't.
Little
don't.
shot.
And that's why Dave, my two favorite bass players that I've
Yeah.
played with was Dave and Nathaniel Phillips.
Wow.
Man.
I mean,
You
they
ain't-
just
you know what?
they just put me in a
Man.
they just put me in a zone like I'm like,
You know what I
okay, I'm
heard?
there.
I don't know. You're making a face,
I
Dave, but
have to
what I
agree
just
with you.
heard was that I just heard Rusty put Nathaniel Phillips in the same league as Dave Agent.
That doesn't surprise me. That don't surprise me. That's the truth, John.
Wow.
I know Dave's shaking his head,
I
Yeah,
know.
and I'm being honest on that.
I did
know,
that
this-
for Dave's reaction because, you know,
Yep.
Man.
Hey, let me tell you, I do want to say, what's up, Gordon Jones? You know, I hope you start getting better and stuff, but hanging in there. But talking with you, Gordon Jones, man, when I mentioned Dave's name,
Yeah.
he lit up, man. He was like, "Whoa, yeah, man,
Wow.
that's a heavy cat right there."
Oh, man, come
Oh,
on.
yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
No.
let me
Yes,
tell you something,
definitely.
and I'm not kidding. I'm not afraid to say things to embarrass you because I enjoy that. But in all seriousness, I should not have been allowed to come up here tonight because we're attending 5 graduation parties tomorrow after graduation, and then we have my son's graduation party on Sunday. So my wife had me on lockdown. And when I told her I got to go to Darrell's house, she looked at me like I grew a new eye. She was like, "You got to do what?" And I said, "Yeah, I got to go to Darrell's house." And she said, "Why?" And I said, "We're going to do a podcast with Dave Agent." And you know what she said? Go.
Ooh. Come on, man. Hey, you guys.
You know, A little more formal. I know we didn't get real formal introductions out of the way, but I do want to point out the fact that, and I'll let Dave speak on it, what his, why those damn platinum records hanging on his wall for Madonna. What his history is with that.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
That.
Shed the
Do
light
tell.
before I start embellishing.
In the summer of 1986, I met. My brother lived with me, and he used to bring rappers from high school around the corner to my house, and they watched me work out, and they all thought they knew me, and I guess I knew them, but I didn't know them by name. There's just 10 people walking my house. It was like, oh yeah, hi guys, here I go.
Was this in Long Beach? Oh, you said
Sacramento.
okay.
One of them I ended up befriending and working with real closely. Cat named, at the time he was going by a name MJ Freeze. And I worked out with him for maybe the summer or so. And then he was busy getting around town, meeting different people. He ran into Mr. King, Jay King from Club Nouveau. I ended up meeting Jay King, a situation came about where Club Nouveau needed some help on the road.
What number situation was that? No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking the same thing.
Could have been 8.5.
Okay.
Maybe 8.
That's all right.
7.43. Anyway.
8 3/4.
Right.
Or 5.0.
One of those, some situation,
Maybe.
I can't remember.
Maybe.
Anyway, I ended up hooking up with these guys and going on the road with them. I believe in between tours, we toured once with Ready for the World and Bobby Brown. We opened for both of those acts. And then we were off for maybe a month or two, and then we go out headlining with The System. And I think maybe some of those days had Roger and Zapp on them also.
Man, The System.
Roger.
That's fun.
Oh yeah, that was very cool. No drummer
I used
that
to
I can
love those
remember,
guys.
but very nice tracks. Loved both those guys here. Awesome. All those guys actually. A cat named Paul Pesco on guitar.
Yes.
Awesome.
He played with Madonna.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
He does a lot of stuff with Darrell Hall right now.
Okay.
If you see Darrell Hall, you might see Paul Pesco there. Anyway, so we're in the middle of the tour. We go down and do a Bud Fest in Jackson, Mississippi in May of '87. And at this time, Lean on Me had gone platinum. Or Lean on the single had gone platinum and the album went platinum.
Right.
All in the same week. It went gold, then platinum, then double platinum or something like that. And
It was busy blowing up.
Yeah, it just went boom. So while we're at that show, I guess Jay gets a call that they need a song for the Madonna soundtrack. They're going to accept a song from them for the Madonna soundtrack. Who's That Girl? The movie.
Yeah.
And then he goes, Denzel Foster goes, hey, let's use Dave's track. Man. We'll use that track you got, Dave.
Dave. John did interview.
We've had Tommy on the show.
Hey, Tommy, what's up, man? How you doing, man?
And his impersonation of Danny was just like
Spot
that.
on.
Yeah.
Oh man, let's use Dave's track.
Yeah,
And
I know Denny real well.
This track. Okay, cool. I had this track that I was working on from. No, Denny's cool, man. I love Denny.
Korg RK100. That's all I'm saying.
Oh no. Oh no. Watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat. No.
Anyway,
not my sleeves. Presto. No.
Don't know my own strength.
Right. Anyway, he wanted to use the track, and everybody's like, "Yeah, cool. Let's use Dave's track." Yeah, it was a funky little thing that I had written for the rapper that I was working with over the summer.
Okay,
and it just had this little. It was a guitar sample and a drum and a snare drum and a bass drum. That was it. It was and the rest is history. We take it into the studio. I took it to the studio, dropped what I had, and then I think the next day everybody came in and just slammed the track.
Wow.
They just slammed the track. It was pretty awesome.
Wow.
Tommy just about blew the speakers in Moon Studios, dropping that piano track and the sax track on that. It was pretty awesome to watch. Wow. One take on sax, one take on piano. It was over. I was like, yeah, awesome player.
Now, John, I have to tell you, when you get over to Dave's house, it's like you're in a freaking, what do you call those?
Like a tropical paradise.
Yes.
That.
Hey, that doesn't sound half bad.
It's not. It's a really nice environment in there.
Yeah, if you were a smoker of any sort, it would be heavenly to be smoked out in that place and just sit there and watch time go by.
Yeah.
It's pretty tranquil.
That's it.
Oh, it's the type of atmosphere you can just sit back and just have a nice little tropical drink in your hand and just sit back and just relax. You don't have to do nothing else. Listen to the water come out of the fountain in the little pond, and it's awesome.
Just
Now-
to get high up, just to get high up.
I'm going to take this show into an unusual place because I have a co-host. His name is Pete Turner. He couldn't make it this evening.
Yeah, Pete.
Pete, thanks for letting me sit in
Hey.
for you.
Right now, what time is it? It's like 1 a.m. Pete is knocking the bottom out of it right now. So I said, Pete, you stay here. I'll go up to Darrell's house. You got business to take care of. So, however, when we first met Dwayne, we were at his place and we had a great meeting. And he said, "Yeah, man." In fact, this is what I said. I said, "Dwayne, I'm trying to get Tommy McElroy on the show, man, and we're entertaining the idea with Dwayne of doing some podcasts at his place." So I said, "I would like to tell Tommy that we're doing podcasts out of your place, and will you be on our podcast at Dwayne's place? Can I tell him that?" And he said, "Dude, if you get Tommy McElroy out here, I will get my piano tuned." Which, Dwayne, you still need to get that piano tuned. Anyway, that piano's a mess.
Now, was he the combination with Foster and
Yeah.
McElroy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but he goes back. He signed Tony to their Mercury deal. So they have a long history. So he said, "Yeah, man, you tell him and get him out here." And then, so I reached out to Tommy. I said, "Tommy, we're working with Dwayne. Will you come do a podcast at his place?" He says he'll get his piano tuned. Help a brother out because he really needs to get this piano tuned. So eventually we did do a podcast with Tommy, and we did it at his studio. But one of the things that happened from that is he ended up now I'm getting way off track. This is what I wanted to say. So that night at Dwayne's place, he said, "Hey, this is great. It was really nice meeting you guys. What are you doing later?" And because Levi Caesar's coming over, and he's got a rehearsal. Do you guys know Levi? And I said, "I don't know Levi, but I want to meet Levi, so I'll come back for a rehearsal."
Yeah, new power generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So he said, "Yeah, just come back in an hour or so." So Pete and I went to go get something to eat because we're fat asses. That's what we do. And we came back, and we were there, and everybody was setting up. The band was setting up and stuff. So I wasn't going over and introducing myself because I wanted to let everybody do their thing first. But then I looked over, and I said, "Oh, that's Juan Escovedo." And Juan and I had played together before, so I went over and I said, "Hey, Juan, how you doing, man?" And we, they had a little reunion. "Hey, man, how you been? It's been a long time since I've seen him." And then, so the rehearsal was getting ready to start. Dwayne walks in, introduces us and everything, so that was cool. And then we're just hanging out and waiting for the rehearsal to start, but there's no drummer. And then the drummer finally calls Levi and says, "Yo, I'm on 980, man. I'm stuck in some traffic. It's going to be about 20 minutes before I get there." So he gets off the phone and he goes, well, the drummer's stuck on 980. It's going to be 20 minutes. And Juan goes, he plays the drums. And I was like, oh, man, I really hadn't touched the Skins in earnest in quite a long time. But in that cast of characters, right, I was a little rusty, had some cobwebs, but, I wasn't going to not play. So I said, yes, I do. And I grabbed some sticks and I went up and we played for a little while. And then one of the singers showed up, and he was in a mail carrier's uniform. Now, I was not formally introduced to this singer, so I don't know who he was, but he came in, he did a brilliant job, and it was cool. And at the end of that, Pete goes, man, I can't believe the great music that I just heard, and this guy was in a mail carrier's uniform. To which, of course, I replied, dude, the baddest motherfucker on the bass you ever going to see wears a mail carrier's uniform pretty darn frequently. And his name is Dave Agent.
Ooh.
So, what takes you from, and now I know you are a guy who is in this area here in Sacramento, and you have established roots, you have a great life. But how do you go from being on the road, visiting 186 countries on one of the biggest tours of the world, to, I'm going to go back to Sac, and I'm going to chill out and carry some mail? What turn of events happens that leads you to settle down like that?
At some point or another, you got to realize that you need to provide for your offspring.
That's very true.
Yep.
In every way.
Oh, yeah.
In every
Yep.
way.
Yeah.
You really need to be there. And I had to make that sacrifice. I got caught in the they call the crossroads. And you have two paths you can take. You can run with the devil,
Right.
or you can do what you got to do. And I chose to do what I had to do.
Yeah.
Not to say that anything out there is the devil, but it's definitely the unknown.
Sure.
And to provide medical benefits and
Safety
and all
and
those
security,
right
and
there.
regularity.
Exactly.
There it is.
all those things for a healthy lifestyle, because without providing all that stuff, things can take a turn for the worse at any time.
Yeah.
And that's not in my heart. I didn't have that in my heart to run around the world and be that guy.
And basically, I'm in that same boat with Dave because I toured and did all that stuff. Was on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno and all that stuff. And but when reality sets in, you got to look back. Okay, you got to look at your future, and like he said, medical benefits, providing for your offspring.
Right.
Yeah.
So because see, I'm a longshoreman now.
Oh, get down.
Yeah, so
That's something to do in Portland
yeah,
to make a guy a living.
It's pretty good long money. What you
Yeah.
said, union job,
Yeah.
great, excellent benefits.
everything.
And it's just about survival now. So I had to do what I had to, even though I still play on the weekends.
Yeah.
As far as extra income and record or whatever.
Yeah.
But the main thing is the 8 to 5 thing now. So I got to think of my livelihood.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's right.
That's right.
But-
That's a common theme with all of us here.
Yeah.
John and I, over the years, since we've gotten reacquainted back in '87, I got stationed at Travis Air Force Base. I had many a conversation with him because of I myself. I think at one time I was label mates with Hammer, with my band at Capitol.
Yeah, Zeelik was on Cat.
And that's right. And the subsidiary was Orpheus Records.
Uh-huh.
But we had this conversation many a times, just saying there's so much to trade off. And you guys hit it right on the nail. It's about health benefits, retirement. I know you guys know a lot of mutual musicians out there that are still doing it, bad as hell, but they don't have that future retirement get set up. They don't have them health benefits, and they're suffering today,
Right.
unfortunately. So we can all relate to that.
Yeah,
That
man,
is-
we live in a culture that loves its music but just doesn't celebrate it to the point where we take care of artistic folks, our creators of,
That's right.
of the entertainment product that we
That's right.
we love so dearly.
Yeah. That's
I-
the truth.
The other thing that I want to say, and I'm probably going to cut this out, but I just want to say this in front of you, Dave, because I pestered Tommy McElroy for months. And finally, when he acquiesced, it was probably about 2.5 months. And finally he said, okay, man. I said, come on, man. Tommy, an hour. It's just an hour. And I'll come to you. I'll make it real convenient. I'll do everything to make it convenient. He said, okay, I'll give you an hour. So what I did was I called James early, and I said, James, I'm going to go interview Tommy. And he said, oh, I haven't seen Tommy in a while, man. I said, you should come down. So he said, okay, I will. When are you doing it? So I told him. We show up at Tommy's place. We knock on the door. He opens the door. Hey, man, how you doing? And he starts to let us in the place. And he doesn't realize that James is walking in until he fully walks in. And then he goes, hey, wait a minute. And he looks up and he says, oh, man. And then they hug. They hadn't seen each other in a while. So we get all set up and we do the show. We were there for 2 hours and 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. I promised him we'd just be there for an hour, man. So, and I was respectful of that. I was like, okay, we're at about 50 minutes. Oh, it's okay, man. We got about 20 more minutes. Okay. Hey, Tommy, we're at an hour and 10. Oh, it's okay, man. I got about half hour. We were there for 2 hours and 40 minutes. It ended up being a 2-part show. We had such a great time. He told so many stories about Jay King. So then he said, I said, what's it take to get Jay on the show? He goes, you should just call him. Just call him. So I did, man, and I called Jay. And we had a very brief conversation, at the end of which I thought, I don't want to have Jay on my show.
Wow.
It was a weird conversation, man, and it was a weird vibe. And I didn't, all the warmth, even when I was chasing Tommy, he was still like, he was still a good dude, and he knew he let me chase him. But he was, I just didn't get that vibe from Jay King, man. Why do you think that is?
Dude, I couldn't call it, man. I have no clue what. So, I mean, was he under the impression that Tommy was going to be there too or something?
No. I told him, hey, man, we had Tommy on the show. He told us a lot of great stories. And I said, and those stories are great, and I would love to capture them. But really what I want to know about, what I want to talk about is what Jay King is up to now. I know he's got the Jay King, he's got his own podcast network that he does, and he's busy. He stays, he's got a whole thing, and I wanted to talk about that, promote that.
Yeah, he's
talk about it with him.
Managing Karen White.
Is he really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can't call it, man. I can't call it. I don't know.
Yeah, matter of fact, when I was in Tokyo, Japan, Club Nouveau was over there. And Jay King, he would sometimes peek in our rehearsals, see what was going on.
Yeah.
And at the time, and I didn't even know him at the time, and I wound up playing with him, and that was Roger Smith. He was over there playing with Club Nouveau.
Okay.
And I told Roger, he was like, that was you up there on drums with Dazz Band? I'm like, yep. I was like a little young 28-year-old then.
So, I wanted to go back to the fact you played with them up until 93, so that was right before Derek Organ.
Yeah, Derek came after me.
Right, because in 93, when Dave and I went out with Confunction, I
Mm-hmm.
ran into Derek over at the street scene, San Diego.
Yeah, Derek took over right after I left.
God, see, I've known
Yeah.
Derek since 1983, 84.
Yeah, Derek, they had that band
Yeah,
Tease. Oh, yeah.
Chucky Booker.
Right.
Kipper Jones. Yeah, the Organ Brothers.
Yeah, Tommy Organ.
Yep, Tommy O, Derek O. Yep, their bass player, Jay Shanklin, is first cousins with our bass player at the time, Eric Strickland. So we always hung out with each other.
Darrell will pull names out of
Wow.
the woodwork, too, from years past.
Cat knows a lot of cats, man.
If you ever meet Darrell, anybody out there who's listening and plays an instrument and may run into Darrell Carbolito, if you ever meet Darrell, you better not owe that fool no money because he will never forget your name, ever. You could meet him one time, and if you play an instrument, he will archive that information in his brain.
That's right, Melvin
And
E. Carter. That's
Never
right.
let go.
That's right, I said it.
That's right.
Speaking of Roger Smith, big shout out to Roger Smith. They're up in Tacoma tonight
All
at
right.
Emerald Queens Casino playing with Tower of Power.
All right.
Okay.
Big props to Raj.
Raj.
Hey, what about see, man, this is what happens when you're old. I had this thought in my head that was going to be amazing, and it completely.
By the way, I did a stint with Roger before Hammer and after Hammer. When I came back from touring with Hammer, I played with Roger also.
Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Hey, okay, I remember my thought. Speaking of Rogers, I want to talk about another Roger we brought up a little earlier, Roger Troutman. I heard Zapp is out there, and they're doing great right now.
Yes, they are, my brother. Yes, they are.
Yeah, they're out there. They've been kind of, still been trying to, continue the legacy.
Actually, it was
They are.
Rich who said it. He said Zapp
They're
is the
kicking
hardest
it.
working band in show business right now.
They
still
always
are.
were.
Yep.
They always were. I mean, when we opened up for those guys, I mean, that their energy level was just so high. I was
Always
just
been.
looking like, wow.
Yep. Because there was a Zapp without Roger at one time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, Zapp is Zapp.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And his brothers got that talk box down.
Wow.
I mean, they're not missing a beat other than the
So-
showmanship of
Oh,
Roger
yeah,
Troutman
not
himself.
missing
Yeah.
a beat at all.
Nope. Lester got that foot.
Man.
Yeah.
So what Rich said was that Zapp will show up at the venue and set up their own. They
Yes.
have a whole
Yes.
thing that they do, a visual effects thing that they do. They'll set it up
Yep.
themselves,
That's right.
play the show,
Yep.
just kill. And then at the end of the show, good night, thank you, Portland, and good night. And then they go away and they start taking stuff down themselves.
4th of July. Zapp.
Oh man, fireworks, family fun,
Sacramento.
yeah, and Zapp.
See, I
what
have-
more
I-
can you ask for? July 4th, Zapp,
Yes,
Sacramento,
sir.
baby.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Wow.
sir. It's going down.
Yes,
I have my
Actually, Elk Grove.
Elk Grove.
Actually,
Elk Grove, come out
Let's
now.
get real.
Here's the thing about Elk Grove in July: it's hot.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
hot.
Yeah.
So plan on coming out and sweating.
with some sunscreen.
Yeah, bring some sunscreen, lots of water. But hey,
It's
if
in-
you like ladies,
It's
if,
indoors.
it's indoors.
It's indoors. It's
Okay,
gonna be a lowrider fest.
I see it. I
Oh,
see.
yeah.
With the Isley Brother
man.
tribute.
Okay.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. That'll be real nice.
It's gonna be nice. I won't be there, but
Matter of fact, when we played in San
If I'm
Bernardino,
going to come all the way up to Elk Grove and Dave's not going to be there,
Yeah. You know
I don't
what?
know if I'm going to that.
I live in West Sacramento. If Dave ain't gonna be there, I ain't going.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, wow.
I have a buddy named Mike. Actually, his first name is Christopher. People call him Mike Jackson. If it wasn't for Mike, I'd have never went on the Hammer tour. That's who Mike is.
I love these linchpin stories where it's like, all of this led up to this, but if it weren't for this one dude, it never, ever would have happened.
Mike was on tour with Jodeci.
Uh-huh.
Jodeci was on tour with Hammer.
Yeah, okay.
Kenny Franklin decided, I'm going home.
Wow.
Ken goes home, or excuse me, I get a phone call out of the blue.
Mhm.
Dave, you want to go out with Hammer? Sure. Why not?
Sure, why not?
That was Tuesday. Saturday, I was in Madison Square Garden, and I had 2 CDs and a cassette because I couldn't find the other one on CD, and I
Wow.
learned everything I could in a matter of a couple days, and I got out there and knocked down. I think that I walked into Madison Square Garden. I see just in time to see the show start. I see this ball dropping over the stage, and this lasers going everywhere. It's like, it's balls dropping slowly. Hammer's inside the ball. You can see him in there. It's coming down. I go, I'm going to do this.
This is insane.
I'm in Madison Square Garden. I'm looking around like, I'm going to do this. There was sound behind me. There's sound in front of me. There's screens on both sides. There's a screen up above in the back. I go walking over to the mixer. It's like, oh boy, this is huge. And so after a while, I make it down front and see what's going on. Long story short, 2 days later, I play like 2 songs, if I remember right. I play 2 songs with the band. The next day, I play like 4 songs. And the next day after that, I play the same 4 songs. And the day after that, 4 more. And everybody's like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, I don't know. I don't get it. And so I talked to, I just couldn't figure out what was going on. What was different about this situation that I didn't understand? There was something missing. I couldn't get my finger on it. Talking to Mr. Ray Brown, legendary trumpet player for Earth, Wind, and Fire Horns.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Ray goes, think of the entire stage. Think of everybody up there. I go, okay. I close my eyes and visualize it. He goes, think of this thing as a giant turntable. I go, what are you talking about? To myself. And I digest the thought. And about 4 or 5 minutes went by. And what I was doing was cycling through the music and cycling through the show, visualizing the show, what was going on in this show, and what it was that I couldn't figure out that everybody else was doing that I wasn't catching. It was the turntable. The whole thing was everybody up there was a needle on wax.
Okay.
I had to get on the turntable.
Okay.
The next night, I played 10 songs.
Okay.
Wow.
So in other words, you were just locking with the turntable.
If it wasn't for Ray Brown, I could have never figured that out.
Wow.
Yeah.
He told me the secret to the show.
But you was too legit to quit. So.
What? What you gonna do about that, agent? No.
Hey, but before I know, but we're getting close to wrapping up. But real quick here, I want to go down on your most ideal setup, rig wise. So I want to start with you, Rusty.
Okay, I'm playing a 7-piece PDP, which is actually a poor man's DW. 7-piece, 3-rack tom, 2 floor toms, surrounded by about 6-7 cymbals around me. Double kick pedal DW 5000.
Nice.
And
The workhorse.
oh yeah, and yes, it's nice, comfortable set. Nice, feels very nice.
Okay.
I've always dug the 7-piece, 3 on top, 2 on the floor setup.
Oh yeah,
I always dug that.
I usually do it on mainly the big stage situation. Like if it's a nightclub thing, I try not.
You cook down to a 4-piece or something.
Mainly 5-piece and cut it down because drummer, that's a lot of work.
It is. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
You know what? You take up a lot of space. That additional floor tom is cool.
Yeah,
but it does take up some
But
space.
as far as the double kick pedal, I do pretty much try to do that as much as I can. I use that as a part of my setup because I have fun with that thing. I try to get creative with it and try to go
it doesn't take up any
different
more
dimensions.
space.
No, not at all.
So that's cool, man. 3 across the top and 2 on the floor. I remember the first cat I saw with that setup that really made me want to go that direction was Tony Thompson.
Oh yeah,
man. Tony Thompson.
That guy he was extreme power.
Pocket. Man,
pocket
he had a
and
deep-ass
power.
pocket. And you're right. He was masculine. That fool would play the drums.
Oh, yeah. If you listen to that Power Station stuff that he used to play on with the Power Station, my God.
There's this feel at the end of Get It On, Bang a Gong, where he just holds back, and then just machine guns nothing but 16th notes on the snare, and then it's just so powerful, and it's just 16th notes on the snare, but it's just like, man, it's so good.
Oh yeah, it grabs you. It definitely grabs you.
Wow.
How about you, Dave? What are you playing?
I just plug in, man.
Yeah.
I just plug in and go. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't
to me.
matter.
I'll make it work somehow.
Just get out of the way.
You know what though? I gotta admit though, I got out there on tour with Hammer, and they had the bass monitor as it was a wedge on the floor, about so big, and that stage
was enormous.
Yeah, that stage made that wedge look like a headphone. An earbud.
Right. Earbud had fallen on the ground.
The second night, I was on my knee listening to it, trying to hear it,
Wow.
what was coming out of it. And I got back up from that show, and I go, that right there is not going to work.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was being a little bit of a jerk, but I was just being real. It just was not going to ever work.
You weren't being egotistical. You were looking out for the show.
Literally, hey, if I can't hear, I can't play.
Right.
The next night, they roll out a Myers cabinet that I had never seen before. It was that big.
Yeah.
And it got the job
Listeners.
done.
Wow.
Big.
Myers sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, plugged in like that, and that was that. There was no controlling it.
It must be nice to be on that size of a tour where you just say something, man, I can't work with this wedge. I need something else. And then, bow.
Yeah. Ken Franklin had 2 Alembic basses out there, and I was like, why'd you pick these Alembic basses out of all? And, he goes to me, he goes, you told me they were the best. And, in actuality, he's right. They are. I was like, you know what? I did tell you that, didn't I? And so I made them. I put down. I just took it and beat it like it was a rock. Just beat it as hard as I could.
Yeah. And what I really like about my setup is, I could be playing a beat, and then you hear some percussion thing going on in it, like a cowbell, and everybody's looking around. There's no percussionist around here. Where's that bell coming from? But I like have it on the side of my hi-hat. Okay. So and I kind of get a thing where I'm playing off the hi-hat back and forth with the cowbell going on. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a unique thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched Garibaldi do it.
Yeah.
With Tower of Power, and I'm like, wow, let me try that.
Yeah.
Sick. Yeah. At some point, we're gonna have to capture these guys.
Seriously.
Playing. Seriously, but due to the time, it looks like we're going to have to do that on Rusty's next visit back.
Yeah. Let's definitely do it, because really what I'd like to do is I'd just like to lay something looped underneath the podcast.
Yeah.
And especially because our podcast was just, we just nerded out. We just sat around this table and nerded out and talked about all the things that we like about
kind of
music.
just like a little powwow thing.
Yeah.
Going on.
And you know what would be really nice is if there was just and whatever underneath.
Right.
From time to time, because, just to sprinkle it in and give a few minutes of just a little flavor.
Well, I'm hoping by maybe the end of the summer or maybe in the fall, I can try to get back down here, because I want to try to get back down here and, visit some musician buddies. And, I've been talking to Dave for the longest to try to, get a good long studio session happening where we could just go in there and just lay some tracks and just throw down whatever and put it together,
And spend some quality time.
Exactly.
Break a sweat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard there was a studio going to be opening up real soon here.
Because like I said, this cat's is one of my favorite bass players, him and Nate Phillips, man. It's they just keep me in that pocket, and it's just like, I be in like music heaven.
I'll never understand that. I'll always be puzzled by comparing me or saying my name after Nate, or even before got anywhere around near There's a zillion names that need to go in between me and Nate.
I got
But,
one.
you know, your credentials speak for itself.
I got one word. I got one word to answer that question, Dave, or try to hopefully put that together for you. It's called articulation.
There you go.
I'm going to end on that note because, yeah, that was a powerful word.
All right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes,
this has been a
right.
pleasure.
Thank you.
The other thing I want to point out is that we were on the microphone recording a podcast, and Darrell brought the most crunchiest snacks.
I'm sitting in the microphone like I'm on a Cheech and Chong movie. Dave's not here, man.
It's a beautiful thing, though.
But Dave is here, and we're going to get back to some chicken, so stay tuned.
All right.
And thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for having me.